Today we will discuss about aerobic and anaerobic respiration, difference between breathing and respiration, various respiratory organs, structure of human respiratory system and mechanism of breathing. Learning objective of today's session are to help you learn the importance of breathing, to help you understand about the respiratory pigments and color of blood, to help you understand the differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, to help you understand the differences between breathing and respiration, to study about various respiratory organs, to study the human respiratory system and mechanism of breathing, to develop scientific attitude, creativity, aesthetic sense and problem solving approach in you, to help you relate biology with your daily life. So, why do living organisms breathe? All of us breathe, but why is breathing so essential to life? All living organisms, including plants and microbes, breathe in order to obtain energy to carry out their daily life activities. Most organisms take in oxygen by the process of breathing. You might be thinking, what is the role of oxygen in the body of these organisms? Oxygen helps in the breakdown or oxidation of food. This process releases energy which is used by the living organisms. In many organisms, including we human beings, respiration occurs in the presence of oxygen. Such organisms are called aerobes. Do you think respiration in all living organisms occur in the presence of oxygen? There are various organisms which do not require oxygen for respiration. That means anaerobic respiration is seen in such organisms and they are called anaerobes. Let us now try to understand in more detail about the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen, whereas in anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not required. Aerobic respiration occurs in the cytoplasm and mitochondria of the organisms, whereas anaerobic respiration takes place only in the cytoplasm. In case of aerobic respiration, the food is completely oxidized and more energy is released, that is 36 ATP molecules are formed. In case of anaerobic respiration, as the food is not completely oxidized, less energy is released, that is only 2 ATP molecules are formed. Examples of aerobes are most of the plants and animals. Examples of anaerobes are yeast, parasitic worms like Ascaris, commonly found in the small intestine of kids. You might recall that Ascaris belongs to the phylum Aschelminthes. Fasciola, commonly called liver fluke, and Taenia, commonly called tapeworm, also show anaerobic respiration. It is important to understand that breathing and respiration are not the same. They do not mean the same, as we shall discuss now. Breathing is simply the process of inhaling of fresh air and exhaling of foul air, whereas respiration refers to the oxidation of food to form carbon dioxide, water and energy. Breathing is a simple physical process, whereas respiration is a biochemical process. During the process of breathing, no energy is released. During the process of respiration, energy is released during the breakdown of food, which is stored in the form of ATP. In case of breathing, no enzymes are involved, while in case of respiration, a large number of enzymes are involved in the process. A component that is closely associated with the process of respiration is blood. There is no doubt that all of us humans have blood which is red in color. But is the blood of all living organisms red in color? It is not so. Humans have red color blood because an iron containing pigment called hemoglobin is present in our RBC, due to which blood appears red in color. In certain mollusks, a manganese containing pigment called pinaglobulin is present, due to which their blood appears brown in color. In prawn and pila, a copper containing pigment called hemocyanin is present, due to which blood appears bluish in color when oxygenated. In certain mollusks, a manganese containing pigment called pinaglobulin is present, due to which their blood appears brown in color. In prawn and pila, a copper containing pigment called hemocyanin is present, due to which blood appears bluish in color when oxygenated. Different organisms possess different respiratory organs. In case of leech and earthworm, the general body surface or skin helps in the process of gaseous exchange. This type of respiration is called cutaneous respiration. In case of fishes and prawns, gills are the respiratory organs by which exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide occur. This type of respiration is called branchial respiration. In case of insects and others like spider, a network of fine thin tracheal tubes present throughout the body helps in the exchange of gases. This is called tracheal system. Mammals including humans, reptiles and birds have lungs which help in exchange of gases, and this is called pulmonary respiration. Now let's discuss about the structure of human respiratory system. Human respiratory system is made up of conducting part and respiratory or exchange part. The path starting with the external nostrils to terminal bronchioles constitute the conducting part, whereas alveoli and their ducts form the respiratory or exchange part of the respiratory system. Respiratory system starts with a pair of external nostrils which are present above the upper lips. They lead into a chamber called nasal chamber, which leads into nasopharynx, a portion of pharynx. Pharynx, as we all know, is a common passage for food and air. Pharynx opens into the windpipe, which is also called trachea, through the glottis. Glottis is covered by a leaf-like structure called epiglottis. When we swallow food, this epiglottis closes the windpipe so that food does not enter the windpipe. Larynx is a cartilaginous box located in the anterior part of the neck. Until puberty, there is little difference in the size of larynx in men and women. After puberty, due to testosterone hormone, it grows larger and becomes prominent in men. Therefore, it is called Adam's apple. It consists of two vocal folds or true vocal cords, which on vibration produces sound. When expired air is passed through the cords, it causes them to vibrate, thus producing sound. Thus, it is also called sound box or voice box. The larynx leads into a long tube called trachea or windpipe, which contains rings of incomplete hyaline cartilage. These incomplete cartilaginous rings prevent windpipe from collapsing during inspiration. The trachea is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium bearing glandular cells. The secretion of mucus glands keeps the wall of the tube moist and traps the dust particles, which enter along with the air. The vibration of cilia of the epithelium then carry the mucus containing dust particles up to the throat, where they can be spat out. At its lower end, the trachea at the level of fifth thoracic vertebrae bifurcates into a pair of primary bronchi, left and right primary bronchi, which enter the left and right lung respectively. As soon as the primary bronchus enters each lung, it divides to form secondary bronchi. Each secondary bronchus divides to form tertiary bronchi. The tertiary bronchi subdivide into smaller branches, the branchioles, which are without cartilaginous rings. The latter gives rise to terminal bronchioles, which further subdivide into respiratory bronchioles. The part starting with external nostrils up to terminal bronchioles constitute the conducting part. This part carries oxygen-rich air into the alveoli where gaseous exchange occurs. The terminal bronchioles give rise to a number of very irregular walled bag-like structures called alveoli. There are about 300 millions of alveoli in our two lungs. Alveoli and their ducts form the respiratory or exchange part of the respiratory system. Alveoli have thin wall, only one cell thick, consisting of squamous epithelium. They are moist, highly vascular, richly supplied with blood vessels. Due to the very intimate contact of blood capillaries with the alveoli, the exchange of gases takes place easily. Humans have a pair of lungs which lie in the thoracic cavity, one on either side of the heart. The lungs are soft, spongy and elastic organs which are pinkish in color. As the heart is present on the left side, the left lung is slightly smaller in size. It has only 2 lobes. Right lung is comparatively bigger and it has 3 lobes. Lungs are covered by a double layer membrane called pleura. Outer pleura covers the internal surface of thoracic cavity and the inner pleura covers the lungs. In between both the pleural membranes, pleural cavity is present which contains pleural fluid secreted by the pleurae. The pleural fluid lubricates the pleural membrane so that they may slide over each other without friction during breathing. This ensures the mobility of the lungs inside the chest. The thoracic cavity is an airtight chamber. At the back, the vertebral column or backbone is present. On the sides, laterally ribs are present, and in the front, it is covered by the sternum bone. The thoracic cavity is closed below by the diaphragm. Such an airtight arrangement is essential for breathing, as we cannot directly alter the pulmonary volume. Respiration involves the following step: breathing or pulmonary ventilation, by which atmospheric oxygen enters inside and carbon dioxide is released. Diffusion of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide across the alveoli. Transport of gases by the blood. Diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide between blood and tissues. Utilization of oxygen by the cells for catabolic reactions and the resultant release of carbon dioxide. We will now discuss the mechanism of breathing. Breathing involves 2 steps: inspiration or inflow, in which air from outside enters the lungs, and expiration or outflow, in which carbon dioxide rich air from the lungs moves out. Let us first focus on the various steps involved in inspiration. As you can see in the screen, the diaphragm present below the lungs is a dome or a U-shaped structure. During inspiration, the diaphragm contracts, due to which it becomes flat, thus increasing the volume of thoracic cavity in length, that is antero-posterior axis. External intercostal muscles are present between the rib bones. These muscles contract and pull the ribs and sternum upward and outward, that is in the dorsoventral axis. This increases the volume of the thoracic cavity. The muscles of the diaphragm and the external intercostal muscles are the principal muscles of inspiration, due to which thoracic volume increases. Thus, the volume of the lungs increases. As pressure and volume are inversely proportional to each other according to Boyle's law, thus pressure inside the lungs decreases. As the pressure inside the lungs is less than the atmospheric pressure, air from outside moves into the lungs. This completes the process of inspiration. Let us now discuss the steps involved in expiration. During expiration, the diaphragm relaxes. It acquires convex or dome-shaped structure. This decreases the volume of thoracic cavity. The internal intercostal muscles contract. They pull the rib cage downwards and inwards. This further decreases the volume of thoracic cavity. As a result, the volume of the lungs decreases. With this, the pressure inside the lungs increases. As the pressure inside the lungs is higher than the atmospheric pressure, air from the lungs moves outside. This completes the process of expiration. Abdominal muscles present in the abdomen can increase the strength of inspiration and expiration. Do you know how many times do we breathe in a minute? Try counting your breath. Remember, one complete breath comprises of one inhalation, that is, when the chest rises, and one exhalation, that is, when the chest falls. A healthy human adult breathes 12 to 16 times per minute. Do you know how do we estimate volume of air involved in breathing movements? For this, we can use an instrument called spirometer, which helps in calculating the volume of air involved in breathing movements. You can see the picture of spirometer on the screen. Let's have a quick recap of what we have learned today. In this session, we have learned about the importance of breathing. We have also learned about the respiratory pigments and the color of blood. We have understood the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration and also the difference between breathing and respiration. We have also discussed about the various respiratory organs and the mechanism of breathing in humans. Before we conclude, here is an assignment for you. Can you relate inspiration with Boyle's law? Inspiration is a negative pressure phenomenon. Justify the statement. What is fermentation? Does it occur in our body? Prepare a chart to show the mechanism of breathing in humans. Name an animal which shows cutaneous, bronchial as well as pulmonary respiration. Hope you all enjoyed today's session. Keep smiling, keep learning, stay healthy. Thank you.